Hello everyone, how are you? The drawing video as promised. It's a lot later than I had anticipated for it to be done. And that's because I woke up much later than I thought I would today. Sorry about that. So, what are we going to draw today? Let's see. Well, for the longest time, I wanted to do a redraw of one of the first monsters I ever created. For those of you who know me, whether you know about me from social media or know me in person, I'm a huge fan of giant monsters. I've grown up with all the classic Godzilla films, a lot of tokusatsu monsters from the Power Rangers and stuff of those, things, those stuff of that nature. I really like them. I think they're super cool. I think they can, I think they're definitely characters and creatures that represent so much more than what people think they do, So, a long time ago, back when I was still in high school, sometime between 2013 and 14, I decided to make my own monsters, my own original ideas, because I thought to myself, well, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create my own creatures. My own series of monsters, from my imagination. So I went ahead and did that. And I started with a monster that I called Vulcan Draco. Vulcan Draco is pretty much, well, what its weird composite Latin name implies. It's a volcano dragon kind of thing, though you wouldn't be able to tell from the design. And as a matter of fact, it's sitting up there right now. And the reason I brought it out was not only to show you guys who Vulcan Draco is, but also as kind of a something to work from in terms of measurement. Because I want the creature in the image to be roughly around the same size, maybe a little bit taller, maybe a little bit, definitely a little bit taller. Anyway though, that is Vulcan Draco. That's one of the first monsters I ever created. Now this drawing itself, I didn't do until roughly 2 years ago, more or less? No, roughly about a year ago. I sat down and I drew this guy, but this is not the original design. This is actually a redraw after 2 prior designs. The first design was very rough. It didn't have any detail to it. It just consisted of this upper body, more or less, but it didn't have legs. It just kind of spelled off into a tail. It had these sort of appendages that looked like back legs or like, a thigh, but then they sort of spread off into fins. It was weird. It was very weird. And then I did a much more draconic version of it. I took away those appendages and it was just the upper body and the tails. And then finally, I settled on this one. And so that is the official design for Vulcan Draco. And the concept of it was, I wanted to create my own Godzilla-like creature. Now, not Godzilla itself, but something inspired by it. So that's the design I ultimately went with. And yeah, that technically was the very, very first monster that I sat down and drew. This is just the updated design, but Vulcan Draco is in fact the first one that I ever created. And preceding Vulcan Draco was another monster. Now I wanted Vulcan Draco to have a bit of a foil, sort of something that the opposite of him. And so I thought of a giant squid monster. I named that one Quilgon because I couldn't think of another name for it. Nothing really went with it. And so today we are going to be drawing the updated version of Quilgon. Now once this drawing is finished, I will post the newer drawing and the original version that I sketched back in high school, as well as this sort of updated sketch that I did somewhere between 2016 and 2017. So yes, today we're going to be drawing him, Quilgon. So, alright. I've never drawn in front of a camera before, so I'm a little nervous. I apologize if I stutter or, you know, erase a lot of stuff. Anywho, let's begin, I guess. Okay, let me get a little bit closer to my paper. I hope I'm not blocking the view. This is a really weird angle for me, because I've never set anything up like this before. So, okay. Now, anyone who knows me as an artist, you know that I always like to start off with the head. Okay. Some good division line between here and here. I should have written my T-square. Now what the hell? I'm gonna go ahead. Just enough to see where my limit line is, where my creature is roughly going to be between here and here. I think that's a good size to work with. Yeah, okay. Let us begin. Yes, I established that. If I don't talk a lot while I'm doing this, it's because I'm super focused on what I'm doing. And, yeah. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to get the graphite structure in. It's not going to be too detailed. It's just going to have enough detail for me to know what to go over with my pen. And, yeah. Okay, let's try to get that accomplished. So Quilgon's head is kind of elongated. He is, in fact, a roughly, I guess you could say, a humanoid squid monster. Now, my original concept of Quilgon, he was bipedal, but that didn't quite, I didn't really like that because it didn't seem right, you know. I think if you're going to design a squid monster, he's got to have multiple appendages. It's got to have multiple appendages. I think this can go over a little bit. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, it's perfectly. I don't know if the camera's going to capture this at all, but I'm just doing like a little rough draft sketch of how this is going to go. If it captures me looking down, it's because I have the original drawing on the floor. So, yeah. That's going to go there, here. That's going to look weird. I'm going to use a squid monster, so I'm expecting it to look normal. For the proportions of this to work, I'm going to have to elongate the head just a tiny bit more. Go above that limit line. Well, I shouldn't really call it a limit line, it's just to kind of measure out the size of the thing, or roughly how big I want it to be. But it's okay. It's a little bit taller. Actually, I guess you could say the clavicle structure. Right about there. Trying to resist the urge to make him too muscular because he's a squid. So, yeah, You know, I'm no biologist or anything, but even if it's more human in structure, I doubt that it would have much, you know, solid muscle. So, yeah. But I'm also trying to give it a discernible body structure. Yeah. Now, go a little bit darker. And yes, start work from there on the details on his face. Yeah, that's fine. Squids have weird shaped heads. They have very conical heads. Buttons just showed up to say hello. And then his buttons scratching my chair. Most experienced artists will know that you don't have to lay the graphite so heavily, because if you're doing something in the realms of comic art, which, unless you're doing it digitally, maybe this doesn't apply to you, or maybe it kind of does. If you're doing comic art roughly, by hand, you're going to go over this with ink. And I use the term ink pen a lot, but technically all pens have ink inside of them. What I mean is, though, you're using artist pens. And the ink in artist pens, I believe, is a little bit different from the ink in regular pens. A lot of ink in regular pens, I think, is more gel-based. When the ink in artist pens, it's a lot more thinner. It's like water. So the chemical makeup is completely different. I think. I could be wrong. You'd think that after drawing for so many years I would have known this, completely, but I'm still learning a lot myself. And that's okay. Perfectly fine to still be learning. You never stop learning. There's not a single point in life where you stop learning, guys. Don't forget that. Another thing about Quilgon, though, is he's supposed to be unusual and intimidating, but if any of you guys have ever seen a squid, you'll know that while they look odd and very alien-like, it can often be difficult to take them seriously with those big bulbous eyes. Some people find that very adorable. So I think if you're trying to make monsters, the best thing to do, the best remedy for that is don't draw any particular big shiny detail. You can establish shine, but maybe make the eyes more solid in color, like glazed over, kind of, a lot of depictions in ukiyo-e, woodblock prints from Japan, show figures with big expressive eyes, which is one thing that helps is if you just maybe do like a beady eye or something, that gives it a very ominous feeling. Or you can just glaze them over, which makes it feel more aggressive and more intense. That's just my suggestion. Everyone will prefer to use different methods. Although a lot of the artists that I know, they prefer drawing more things of I guess because of a cutesy variety. I am not a fan of drawing things of a cutesy variety. I can draw things of a lighthearted variety, but not cutesy. So, yeah. I do things of a very intense variety, I'm not gonna lie. This part's the most difficult. A little bit of a definition line right there. Even though he's a squid, you know, his body is more, I guess, respectively gelatinous, so he's not going to have any super defined creases. But regardless, you want to have something there to mark off with your pen for later to add that sort of extra level of dimensionality to the creature. Yeah. That's going to ride all the way up here. This is something that's going to be troublesome. I have a tendency to rest my hand on the paper a lot, so this is going to push the easel just a little bit. Maybe in future videos, if I do more 2D drawings in paintings and things like that, I may have some sort of weight to keep it in place. Yeah. We're going to move on to the shoulders. Well, no, never mind. We're not moving on to the shoulders just yet. We're going to move on to the chest. So the thing about my monsters is, even though, for example, this is a squid, and if you've ever eaten squid or caught a squid before, you know it has muscle, but not like mammals or reptiles, you know? It's not composed of many multiple strands that create those ribs, rifts and things, and all that. So when creating this guy, it gives me a little trouble because I'm very used to drawing things with a much more defined musculature. I'm a little bit of what you would call an anatomy Nazi. I will not feel comfortable if the proportions on what I'm drawing aren't just right, and if the muscle isn't correct. I will leave it alone for quite some time if I have something else to do, and then come back to it when I better understand the musculature. But with Quilgon, this is a little bit difficult because he's a squid. So I need to do something. But the thing about my monsters is when I think of monsters, I think of monster fights. And when I think of fighting, I think of the martial arts. And martial artists, if you've ever seen them, they have very athletic bodies, toned specifically for fighting. So, you need to have, or I like to give these monsters a body that looks like it's capable of combat. I like to really emphasize their ability to seriously rip each other apart if they're going to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, Quilgon proves difficult because he's so squishy. He's a squishy squid. Okay, yeah, we're off to a good start there. Something here that makes a rough emphasis on his tentacles. And I don't know if I mentioned this at first and stuff, but if I did, then you'll remember that Quilgon was originally a concept that was meant to be bipedal. I didn't like that because sort of agreed with the concept of a squid monster having more appendages. So drawing this may prove to be a little difficult, but not impossible. So, gonna see what we can do here. Not giving him too much of a natural muscle structure for a sea mollusk. He looks super stocky. A very clear elbow. And a forearm, or part of it anyway. So see what I'm going to do with the forearm in just a bit. Originally in my original concept, he had these, you know those appendages that squids shoot out from in between their tentacles to grab prey that are far away? Well, he has those, and my original concept was to have them sort of like branch off of his back. And while that would have looked kind of cool, I sort of repositioned them to be in what could be considered as hands. So I'm going to show that in just a bit. Right now, moving on to his other arm. If you're a first-time drawer, or if you're trying to get into drawing, here's one crucial thing to always remember. If things are far apart, this object that's farther from this object is always going to be relatively smaller than whatever is here. Not like super, super tiny unless you're trying to draw something with some really weird angular structures, but you get the gist. It's going to be smaller. I guess you could say forearm appendage. The elbow part. Connect. Clear point right there. Direction just slightly. That make a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? I'll make it make sense in just a bit. record, this part always gives me trouble. Trying to get things to mirror each other. That's always given me trouble ever since I was little. It's just a little division line. For those of you who don't know, I'm what you would call a perfectionist. So, not with other people. I don't do that. I try not to do that. I'm kind of a huge perfectionist with myself. Like, I need to do things just right, or else it's going to make me uncomfortable. Friendly piece of advice. If you are a perfectionist like me, try to work out of that as best as possible, because it is not healthy at all. That is okay. I like that. I'm going to leave that there as is. And now for the lower appendages. Okay, how do I know about this? It needs 8. So it's going to be here. About that level. And to be perfectly frank with you guys, I don't want to put like a tentacle right in the middle, because yeah, I don't want that thing to look like a penis. Just saying. Although, fun fact, one of those tentacles in most sea mollusks, squid and octopi, is technically a penis. So, one way or another, there's no avoiding that. But anyway, sorry. I'm just being a man-child. because it is a theoretical scenario where he is standing on land. It's got to be upright. But I guess his body would make more sense in the water. Next one. Just to make these things look more squirmy. Yes. Check something real quick. So this one's going to be super long. I'm letting you guys know ahead of time. Or I should have let you guys know ahead of time. But yes. But I'd much rather this be super long and get through the whole thing of doing this portion than have to make another section somewhere in the middle, you know? So, yeah. I want to get through this graphite portion first of the next video that comes out, whether it goes about the same length or a little bit shorter. You know, limits this to only 3 parts at the most. This graphite portion, the ink portion, and then the watercolor portion. Because this is going to be painted in watercolor.